This is episode 144 of the Andrew Hines Real Estate Investing Podcast. Welcome to episode 144 of the Andrew Hines Real Estate Investing Podcast. Today, I have Aditya Soma on the show to talk about Windsor investing. Aditya is both a top performing real estate agent and a well-established real estate investor in that market. He talks about family rentals, about how to get cash flow on family rentals, and how to convert single families into triplexes, something that he's been doing in Windsor. His strategy is one that he's done fairly aggressively, and he talks a lot about his business practices as well as what he's doing to grow and grow sustainably in the future. So it was a really interesting conversation. We definitely talked a lot about bylaws and some of the more technical details, as well as building a team and just good business practices in general. So before we jump into that, I want to just remind you that if you're new to real estate investing and some of the language isn't that familiar to you, I highly suggest that you head right back to episode 1 and work your way all the way through. There's been so many great guests on this show and they've all added so much value. It's highly relevant today, so I would recommend go right back to the beginning and work your way through. Trust me, you won't regret it. And just before we jump in, if you could kindly take a moment to rate and review this podcast on Apple Podcasts. If you're watching on YouTube, hit the like, subscribe, and notification bell, and leave us a comment. Let us know what you think. It'd be greatly appreciated, and it'll help more people to find this show. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into episode 144 with Aditya Soma. Hello and welcome to the Andrew Hines Real Estate Investing Podcast. I have Aditya Soma on the show and coming at us from Windsor, Ontario, I believe. Is that right?
Yep, that's right.
Yeah. Okay. So do you know Marco?
Yes, he's my good friend.
Okay. Yeah. Marco's been on the podcast as well. But Aditya, thank you for doing this.
No, thank you for having me. Marco told me a lot about you, so I was excited to be here.
Awesome. Okay. Well, would you mind just telling me a little bit about yourself and what you're doing in real estate? Yeah,
for sure. So again, myself, Aditya Soma. I'm a real estate investor at first. So I started as an investor in 2017 and got a couple of rentals and then kind of felt like, real estate, that's where I belongs to. That's when I quit my job in 2019, became a realtor as well. So investor focused realtor. And now I have a team of agents and myself. So we helped over like 250 or 60 plus clients in last 2 years, 8 months as an agent, and personally as an investor. I own 36 doors plus, and now we started a flipping company, which is, we have 3 projects on the go right now. So yeah, that's in a nutshell.
And are you well established in the Windsor area? Is that where you started your investing journey?
Yeah. Pretty much I started, all my investments are in Windsor.
Okay. And what type of properties?
So most of them are like single families, duplexes, and the recent purchase is a 17-unit building. So now I'm slowly trying to move into multifamily.
Getting into the bigger stuff.
Yep.
Are you familiar with my podcast at all, or is this
no?
Experience?
I know you for the last 2 years. I know your whole story. I think I DM'd you a while ago. Okay. Just chatting after Marco mentioned about you, so I follow you quite often.
Okay. Yeah. Just curious. If you're familiar with my podcast, I'd love any unique takes that you have, like kind of what you're doing and how you're doing things differently. If you have any, I know a lot of us use the same strategies and there's nothing wrong with that. I'm just curious if there's anything that kind of stands out about your strategy.
Definitely one strategy that I'm focusing right now is taking a single family, adding 2 ADUs, because, one is kind of became quite popular, especially in Toronto area, all those bigger cities that you guys. But now in Windsor, me and my partner, what we are doing is we are doing that first ADU in the basement, but because the city does allow for another ADU as a detached unit.
Oh, nice.
So that's a strategy that we are focusing right now.
Okay. And how are those working? Have you finished one yet, or are you in the process of
No, not yet. I have 2 of them that are still in the process. One, we just applied for the permit, and 2, we are already in the renovation phase. So,
but I'm sure you have a pretty good idea of what that's going to yield you and what it's going to be worth.
Yeah, definitely. So again, appraisal value still is a question mark. So I went with very, very conservative appraisal value, because when something new comes in, the appraisers are not happy. They won't give a attractive.
They always play it super conservative when they don't know until they have direct comparables, unless you find one that has some other basis for comparison that they feel comfortable with, right? But it's all about their comfort, right?
Yeah, that's a kind of a tough one to find, like very specific comparables, because there's I as far as I know, no one have done it in Windsor.
Right. Well, we can speculate, right? I mean, even going off cap rate, which I know people don't really do for those smaller units, but I still think it's a valuable to look at from an investor standpoint.
Yeah, definitely. That's, cash flow point. If they look at from a cap rate point, I'll get solid. I should get like solid appraisal value, because the cash flow is pretty high. It's like 2,000 plus. But I was looking at based on the square footage, because, it's in a nice neighborhood where they often take like square footage into account over the ground, under the ground and all those things. So I was looking at like a single family, 50, 60 years old bungalows. Those are my typical style.
Would they be like 1,200 square feet kind of thing?
Yeah, 12 to 1,400 upstairs, and probably $1,000 square feet in the basement, and another 800 square feet in the detached unit.
So you add, and is that because you're limited to 40% of gross floor area?
Yeah. So like kind of a standard size that we are looking at, like I don't want to go for 1 bedroom, too small. If I go for 3 bedroom, it needs bigger space. So that middle ground, which is like 750 to 800, where I can get decent 2 bedroom, maybe 2 bath or 1 bath. That's what my architect working on right now. So
yeah, that's tough, man. I've been through that experiment, trying to get 2 bedrooms and 800 square feet. I know they do it in the Toronto condos, but I find that challenging. I
have seen 650 condo with 2 bedroom, 2 bath. 650 square feet.
That's insane. Oh man, I guess my expectations are just too high for amount of space. I like a good 150 square foot bedroom. I think that that's like a spacious bedroom, or 120 to 150. Yeah.
Master bedroom has to be at least 150 in my opinion.
Yeah, otherwise it just doesn't feel right. I mean, even 150 is not that big. I'd like a 200 square foot master.
That's a whole different discussion there.
No, I know. Yeah, it's different type of place. Okay, so you're buying sort of your 50, 60-year-old bungalow, probably brick, maybe a little bit of aluminum siding, sometimes one of those kind of flatter sloped roofs on them. Yeah, I got a very good picture for that. Okay, so what did this most recent one, what did you pay for it?
So I got this one for $375 because it's literally sight unseen. No one knows what's inside. Even the seller agent did not go in, because there was a person living in. So that's a big problem. But in that neighborhood, the lowest price that ever sold in last 8 months was like $475. So we negotiated down to $375. So we got a good size discount, because we are taking that huge risk of not knowing what's in there, how is the basement height and all those things. So now we gutted out the whole thing. Now pretty much it's a clean slate. We are kind of predicting around 300,000 going into the property, having main floor complete 3-bedroom unit, basement 2-bedroom unit, and detached 2-bedroom unit.
So you're going to put 300 in on those 3 things.
Yeah, altogether 300, 320.
That must include servicing. Is it a detached backyard unit?
Yeah, detached backyard unit.
Okay, so you're having to do a furnace in that, or are you doing like
mostly we are looking at heat pumps, because now if we do if we do the HVAC again, that's a lot more cost.
You got to do gas. You don't want to trench gas lines out there.
Yeah, that's again, cost, right? Everything comes down to.
Yeah, well, heat pumps can be quite effective, right? Like you can get them where they're good up to like minus 30 some odd degrees.
Yes.
As long as you pay for the upgraded one, that's a little bit better. So 300 is not cheap, but you're building a new construction rear yard unit, 800 square feet, plus you're doing the whatever gutting you need to do on the inside and finish the basement unit. So that makes sense. Okay, and then will that 300 cover your carrying costs as well?
So yeah, all together like 320,000. So we are
Okay.
like, we round figured like we will be all into the project 700,000.
Okay, so 700. So just like 25,000 and just miscellaneous, and then that puts you at 700 all in.
Yeah.
And what value are you thinking you're going to get?
So like very, very conservatively, I know in that area, like just a single families, nice, beautiful finished basement, not a legal units, or selling around 600, 620, 630 range. So very conservatively, I should get 700. But if the appraiser is smart enough to take that square footage of the second ADU, because that's a brand new unit.
Yeah.
If they take that into account, I should get 850, 900.
Well, I would think so. I think one of the challenges you might have is, our bank policies updated enough to include an additional unit? Because it used to be house and 5 acres. Most banks would say house and 5 acres, house and 10 acres. That's it. They don't care if you got a barn. They don't care if you got 3 other houses on the lot. Those don't count. Do you have a lender, an A lender, that has a policy that's going to acknowledge that rear yard unit?
Not at the moment, because it's still very new. But I have an agent in my team. He's expertised in building tiny homes in the backyard. So that's like single family with just another unit in the backyard, like laneway homes. So he got he's using a credit union that is lending, considering that value into account.
Yeah, that makes sense. I feel like I'm always leaning towards local credit unions these days. They're more adaptable, it seems.
Yeah, definitely. Especially, they take everything into account. They're not like, oh, this is our policy says, we just stick to this. They're a little bit flexible.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like common sense practices. Whereas larger corporations, they have more of a centralized policy they got to follow.
Yeah.
Okay. So will the units in the main house have like their own backyard each, or will the basement guy kind of be without a backyard, and then you got the main floor guy gets a backyard?
I was actually discussing just that thing yesterday with my partner. So we were planning to put 3 different backyards, like just fencing them. But we got to see, it's still, we haven't came to that phase, but we are at least hoping to have 3 different backyards because we have a pretty good sized backyard there. So definitely, like it's like a corner lot. We want to give the corner where the detached unit is, that gets the corner, and there is like the whole back side of it. We want to divide into 2 pieces, and both like a horizontal way. This person access from one side, another person access from the other side. So we're gonna see.
Nice. Yeah, I think it goes a long way. I think a lot of people really care about having a backyard so you can attract a better tenant, which at the end of the day is like everything. You don't want to have bad tenants.
Exactly. Especially like the location that we chose that property is in, like it's in a pretty good location. So where definitely people want to have their own backyard.
So what do you figure you're going to get for rent on the main unit?
So main unit, we are like very conservatively 1,800, 1,750. Basement 1,400, like very, very conservatively. But I have seen a lot of units. Even my own clients have done just single family and ADU. Bunch of them, they're getting like 1,800 upstairs and 1,600 downstairs in that location. And then the detached, probably another 1,600, 1,400, 1,500.
Okay, we'll call it 1,500 for now.
Yeah. So like I did my math at 16, 18, 14. So at that numbers, if I refinance at 700,000 for my mortgage of 520,000, I'll be making a cash flow around 2,200.
Okay. Yeah, I'll just run through this. So 16, 18, 14 is what you did your numbers at. I think that sounds reasonable. I guess it's the same type of crisis in Windsor where there's not enough units. There's people trying to rent everywhere. Yeah.
Yep. And especially like now this unit's going to be brand new, right? Like everything is brand new and it's
in a good neighborhood.
Like modern looking. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. What do you figure you'll be in for taxes there?
In this neighborhood, like, again, I don't know if they're going to increase the tax after adding that ADU.
Probably.
So because another 800 increased, but as of now, it's 3,700 ish.
So we'll call it 4,500 just in case.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a good chance that it depends. Like I've had units where they almost doubled my taxes after a renovation, but I don't think that's what you're in for because like you said, it's new and they don't know how to value it. They don't know how to value it yet. So it's not likely they're going to give you a big jump right away.
Yeah.
Okay. So insurance on something like that, you're probably going to be into
150-ish.
Like I was thinking like $3,000 a year. I guess that's a little bit more than 150.
Maybe I don't think 3,000 in Windsor, especially after that is all done. Probably 2,500.
Okay, maybe, so we'll say 2,500.
Conservative 3,000 is a conservative number, right? It always goes for expensive.
Yeah. Okay, 2,500 is reasonable. Yeah. We're in that realm of reason. So for maintenance, I'll just put 8% because you've done a lot of renos.
So now everything is new, like top to bottom.
Yeah, that's why you don't need quite as much of a maintenance number there.
Yeah.
Utilities wise, are you paying anything in the?
No.
Or are you going
to be? We're gonna put everything on tenant name.
Okay, what about water? So you're gonna have three separate water connections? No, just one.
So we did on the other property, we did two separate lines, which we haven't started the detached one. But most likely we're gonna put, like, if we are doing all inclusive water, we're gonna say, like, the back unit will have X amount of percentage. Most likely the back unit, we might have a separate water meter. Maybe we might have to keep the existing house one water line.
Yeah, if you can separate it, do it, because it's just such a headache not to. Billing back, I do separate sub meters at one of my places, and it's just an absolute nightmare. Some municipalities you can get extra water meters for like $50 or $100. Like you just pay for the water meter. And we're in London, you got to pay like a frontage fee. You got to pay for their contractors to dig into the road. They got to come straight off the water main. Like it's like $15,000, $20,000 to add a line. So yeah, if you can do it for not that kind of crazy money, it'll make your life a lot easier. Because the tenants, for some reason, I'm the bad guy because I come to collect on the water. I don't get it. We're good otherwise, but it's just like because I'm billing them back, they get angry at me.
It's better. I prefer to have all plus utilities.
Right. So,
but again, right now it's a clean slate. So most likely we'll end up having separate.
Okay, so you're going to try and bill it back. The assumption is that they're going to pay. I'll leave a couple $100 in there just in case you end up paying for some of it. But that's cool. Okay, so management, are you going to pay management?
Yeah. So again, because I am a investor focused realtor here, so we have a pretty special discounts from my manager because we give a lot of business. So that's like under 5% for me.
Okay, so you get a really sweet deal, and that includes leasing when he has to do releasing.
I mean, I do leasing.
So you do the leasing, and then the landlord. Okay, that's all right. Okay, and then landscaping. Are you going to be doing that, or are the tenants going to be doing?
No, but generally, even if we leave it for the tenants, we have still the liability, right? So rather, I have my snow clearing company come and do the snow clearing, and the grass cutting. So
what do you budget for that?
Probably around $100
a month,
on a high side.
Okay, so
that's on average, right? Like
Yeah. Okay, so then we'll throw in a miscellaneous there at $500. Okay, so you said it's worth $700 when you're done, which would be a 5.72 cap, figuring 2% vacancy. Obviously we could play with that number. Okay, so then let's look at this other part. Are you going to be 80% loan to value? I would assume you're most planning to get that, unless the credit union cuts you back. But let's assume that you can get A lending.
I'm pretty confident I can get that A lending.
Okay, so what do you think you're going to be at for interest rate now?
Probably
2.5%.
2%. Yeah, two is pretty doable right now. Like
two still okay. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, like variable I can get like even 1.5, but go for 2.2.
Yeah. Okay, so I threw in 2.2% here. You're going to have a mortgage payment of about $2,100 at that, and you'll have a $1,200 cash flow if all those numbers hold true.
Yeah.
You might get higher appraisal. There's a lot of things that might be, but if it stays like this, then you're kind of looking at being in with, I guess, $145,000. So still really solid returns. You're getting 32%. Assuming a 3% annual appreciation, which Windsor's been doing like 25, 35%. So 3% is pretty darn conservative. Yeah, so really solid investment. Do you see that like the perfect burr is something that you're able to do where you are?
Yeah, I mean, yes, I have done like a lot of burrs on the side. Like, so even I'm right now doing my 17-unit building, it's going to be a perfect burr. But for ADUs, especially for properties like this, because it's a new thing, probably burr might not be the case, because I'm still leaving money on the table around like 140,000 something, 140 or 160, because that's again taking the conservative numbers into account, right? Like I'm just putting 700 as an appraisal value, but if appraisal value comes in around like 900, all my money is out. So there are burr strategies out there, a lot of properties, especially because on top of your forced appreciation, the property values are also going up. So most of the properties I was able to pull the money out so far.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, the numbers, like, this makes a lot of sense. Like, I've done a move very similar to this where I did the secondary unit in the backyard on one of mine, and no one was really doing that as far as on-market sales. So there's not really good comps for the appraiser. So at the time, I wasn't like really getting great numbers. I think initially, like, the value was somewhere around 600, and then I got more recent appraisal at 850, and that was year and a half later.
Huge difference.
Just as more people do it, as it becomes more common, and also as the rest of the market comes up naturally, even if appraisers are uncertain, they still know that it needs to have a decent value on it. So
that's exactly what I thought. Hey, here's the thing, at this point I'll be having good cash flow. Even if I'm leaving money on the table, I have like brand new property technically in a good location that is cash flowing, which is
like there should always be a demand for it. As long as people still need a place to live, that's the thing that I like about more, kind of family oriented rentals, is especially if they're in that sort of price point where families can afford that living. It's a good option for them. That works out really well. All right. So what else are you up to? You're doing these 2 additional units. Well, actually, just even before we move off of that, what's it like from a municipality standpoint? Like, what are they requiring of you to be able to do this? And what are the restrictions? Like, what are you seeing as a challenge, and how does it work?
Definitely, like, biggest challenge is the timeline, right? Like, the city is taking quite a long to, approve the permits, because now you got to account for holding costs. So make sure, taking that timeline into account. And of course, they're like very strict about like the height, sunlight, the measurement that they have, like certain X percentage sunlight has to come into the basement. They are flexible. They're encouraging for people to do ADUs, but at the same time they don't want people to they need to meet certain requirements. So they're very specific about the square footage. So the one that I'm almost done right now with a second ADU in the basement, we have submitted the drawings for like just little over 1,000 square feet, which was like 1,060. I tried to squeeze in second washroom, 2 bedroom, 2 bath in the basement, but they were like, nope, so you're exceeding 60 square feet. Now I got to cut down that 60 square feet out. So I had to take that washroom out, but they are flexible to give. It's just, we need to make sure we need to have the right contacts, especially the BCIN designers who have done this before. Is a key role, because they know exactly what are the requirements are.
Yeah, you want to work with people who know what they're doing. Otherwise, it's just going to be like you're inventing the wheel. You're having to call the city. But in terms of doing this, are you able to do this without any development charges? Like, what are the fees associated with going from 1 to 3 units?
Oh yeah, no development charges, because that's the biggest cool thing of having an ADU, right? So now it's the fees that is associated to do an ADU. That's the fees we got to pay, which is like, I believe $2,000 or something.
Like just the permit fees, pretty much.
Yeah, just the permit fees, like for ADU permit, like to do the additional dwelling unit, that permit fees, but no additional development charge, because you're not doing on a brand new unit, like on a brand new land lot where you're doing a brand new home. It's different. That's exactly why I like the ADU part, because now you don't have extra separate property tax. You don't have extra separate, it's still part of one lot. You have all this together like a triplex. Only difference is side by side.
Yeah, they're obviously incentivizing it. That's one of the incentives, that you don't have to pay development charges for accessory dwelling units. And I think that's true on most municipalities. I think that was a provincial mandate that it would be that way. So certainly helpful. It used to be you would have to pay full development charges. You might have to pay an extra $50,000 per unit, which obviously that's not very lucrative when you're paying so much for construction to begin with. So works out really nicely.
Yeah.
And so as far as restrictions, did they say that you were limited to that 800 square feet you're doing in the backyard, or did you decide that?
No, there are certain requirements, like the lot size, based on your house square footage. So again, I'm not too much into that mathematical thing. So my designer said, okay.
So they have ratios.
Yeah. So pretty much our designers came back and said, okay, you know what? To have less hassle from the city, our best bet is to go for 800. So I said, okay, sure, we'll go for 800.
Very cool.
Because she does all the calculations, right? She has that ratio. I believe it's like 40% has to be your house. There are certain requirements. So I don't know much deep into that exact calculations.
Yeah. Well, in London, it was, so your secondary unit could be 40% the size of your primary unit as of like July 31st, 2017, whatever that was then, like you're allowed 40% of that. So if you've already got 2,000 square feet between your main and your basement, you can go 800 square feet on your second unit. That's
actually true for the second unit in the basement. Like you can have 40% of the
okay.
But for second ADU, for second ADU, they're taking the lot size into account, and probably I'm assuming 40%, but not 100% sure. That's where I have a good designer. So
no, of course, I just like to loosely know, because then when I'm doing my investigation, I'm like, okay, that won't work, and then you know which ones to kind of direct to your designer. But that, obviously as you do this, you start to see which ones work, which ones don't, and then you can just fire them over to your designer to confirm. So that definitely makes sense. What I've noticed in London is they've actually just made it so difficult, like that almost no one could ever do an accessory dwelling in the backyard.
Oh, wow.
Like they've just made the requirement. I forget what it was, but it was something that like almost no house would ever qualify for. So, wow. That'll change, but that tends to be the way. I've seen that in a lot of industries. Rather than say no, they just make the qualifications so difficult that almost no one can. Banks will do that too. Like they won't cut out programs always. They'll just make it so hard to qualify that no one ever does it.
Yeah, when maybe that's it gets to that point when there is more than enough accommodation, more than enough place for people to live.
Yeah, I think with London, it's just a lot of the NIMBYers, like not in my backyard. They don't. So it's always been sort of like that. They've been a slow to develop type of town. That's my understanding of it anyhow. But anyways, okay. So Windsor's your focus. How long have you lived there?
It's been, I moved here 2014, I believe.
Okay. And were you in Canada before that, or was that?
No, I'm actually coming from India. Born and raised in India. Came here as a student in 2012.
Okay.
So I finished my studies, and then, unexpectedly I got a job in Windsor. At that time, like I didn't even know where Windsor located, because I was in Toronto. So I moved all the way to Windsor because that's the job I could find in 6 months. So I cannot let that go. So I moved in.
Right. And what line of work were you in?
I was IT guy. I was a software developer.
Okay. And you just finally quit that job, you said, in 2019?
Yeah. Like as soon as I got my real estate license, I quit my job. Okay. That's another story that I can definitely talk for a long time, but I'll try to put it in a short story. So I was like, I had some financial responsibility for family side. So I was into debt, heavy debt, like to 180,000. So in 2019, in almost 2018 end. So I said, okay, I'll sell my first property, which was giving me around like 80,000 profit. So I sold my first property, and I was just got my license, and I was still 100,000 debt. I'm like, so if I continue working this job, it will take me, because I was saving hardly like $2,000 a month after all the expenses, because my IT job salary was like 80,000. So if I continue for $2,000 a month savings, I gotta like literally wait for 50 months to finish the debt and continue investing. So that means my investing going to pause. So I would have to figure out my income first. So that's when I jump in as a salesperson. So I quit my job, got in as a salesperson in 2019.
Nice.
End of
And
January.
how quickly did you have success with that? I guess since you're
Within
in the business, you're already investors, right?
Surprisingly, in my first year alone, I was able to clear off all my debt. I made like 300,000 in my first year, sold 55 properties.
Wow.
Yeah, that was a surprise for me.
What do you attribute that to?
The biggest key is I'm heavy on YouTube. I share all my journey on YouTube a lot. So my channel, thanks to all my audience, like now I have like 16,000 subscribers there. So a lot of people who are looking to move in or whatever. So my content comes up on YouTube. So they reached out to me, now pretty much those are the one because of that, like I have a bunch of clients and I was able to convert them easily because I had knowledge and I was already investing in the business. So,
well, people want to work with those who know, right? They want to work with somebody, and somebody they feel like they can get along with. Of course, they want to know that you know what you're doing. So if you're a successful investor, it's not hard to see why they'd want to work with you. So is it mostly investors that you're working with, or you're working with some homeowners?
Yeah. I mean, I do work with sellers and first-time home buyers who are looking to buy a primary home. But heavily, when you said what's our niche, because I'm an investor and I'm still investing heavily. So obviously, investor-focused real estate team here.
Yeah. It gotta be in a niche. I know this is a little tangent for real estate investing talk, but so many people I think go into real estate as realtors and they just think, we'll do whatever. That's the general idea when they get in to start, just do whatever business I can get. And they're so broad spectrum focused that they can't really make any one thing work.
Thank God. I think, for me, that was the biggest reason. Because I was already talking investors language, I was already talking about burr strategies and, house hacking and all those things. So automatically, investing became my niche and it was easy for me. Like I never even looked for a client. There was never a day where I was like praying for a client to come to me. Like there was always like more than enough leads.
You're just talking real estate all the time.
Yeah. And that's where Marco came in. He was my first mentee. He was my part of my team.
Oh yeah? Yeah. How long has he been with you on your team?
So he started in 2020. So he was with me almost close to a year. And once he was comfortable and he was pretty much ready to fly. So that's when he went on his own.
Yeah, Marco came to me and he wanted to learn how to do development, learn how to do construction, and the guy is just absolutely crushing it, severing land, just crushing deals and making massive hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah, he's already like working on a huge construction project right now in university area. So his niche is like, again, within the investing, he's more into student rentals.
Yeah, he really loves the student rentals. So for anyone who wants to check out that episode, I believe it's like late 90s in my episode numbers. You can see Marco Agbaba. Really going to be a successful guy. Already is, but still
especially
going.
on a student rental, like that's he has a solid knowledge there.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so he's probably selling a lot of that on your team, I think. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Does a lot of those type of properties. Yeah, student rentals are great, man. I like them. I think the delicate balance with student rentals is I like them when they can also be a family rental if, for some instance, that school enrollment goes down or something along those lines. Not that that's that likely, but it could happen, right?
Yeah, again, that's one thing I never I have tried doing student rental, but I felt like it's not for me. I don't have patience to manage each individual student. I have 2 properties in university area, but mostly like what I have done is like it's a duplex. So I have like 2 separate units and I did it as a furnished rental. So I'm still getting like, good cash flow, almost like Marco, but only difference is now I don't have to worry about each room. I just worry about units.
Yeah. Well, it's one of those things where I think you really gotta know your strategy with it and have your systems down. Like the systems gotta be down. Like you do not want to go into that business blind because
especially student rental. I agree with you 1,000%.
Yeah. It's like going into the lion's den if you're not ready for it. Yeah. Family rental, you can get away with a lot more.
Yeah,
but
because property manager can easily manage this. Family rentals compared to student rental. It's different.
I have one tenant I don't think I've heard from in a year. Like I actually don't, like they're on automatic payment. They change their own furnace filters, like payment. I don't talk to them.
Yeah.
I don't need a manager for that.
That's exactly good thing with the family rental, right? Whereas student rental, you got to hear back from them by end of year or by end of second year.
Yeah. Are you resigning? Yeah. The only negative with that is, like when the students turn over, you can raise their rents quite easily. Whereas family rentals, they might want to stay forever. If you don't stay on top of the raises, then
again, it's always every strategy have its own positives and negatives, right? Like for student rental, in my opinion, it has its own solid pros. If you can build proper systems around, like I have a client whom I helped like 4 properties in that area. Now, just with 4 properties, she's making like over 6,000 cash flow. And here I am, like I have 36 doors and my cash flow total is like 5,200 or something. So huge difference, right? But again, it's her thing that works better for her. But for me, my active income side is like, my sales business. So it's just that you got to know what your strength is,
Yeah, absolutely. No, I can definitely appreciate that. You got to invest in what makes sense to you. And,
exactly.
Don't try and force something that doesn't, because otherwise you won't get into it. You won't be enthusiastic about it and you won't do a good job with it. Yeah. So your niche, obviously the family rentals, you're doing multis. Like, is your average unit, are you like averaging a 4-plex? Is that kind of like your sweet spot, or you?
No, I mean, most of them were single families and duplexes.
Okay.
Now I jumped into 17-unit building, and I'm
17.
So I'm almost refinancing it, where I'm expecting to pull all the money out, maybe an extra 100,000. So that's going to be a heavy cash again in hand ready, because we invested like almost 300,000 into it. So we have like 700,000 coming out. So I don't want to buy another single family or duplex. I would rather go into like a big multifamily.
Yeah, obviously that's where you can really start leveraging your time. But my understanding is those are getting harder and harder to find.
Yeah, I heard you're getting into US market multifamily. Is that true?
I don't have any multis yet. I just bought a bunch of lots.
Lots. Okay.
Yeah, do some building down there, and I'm open to other opportunities, but that's kind of where I've started as part of a strategy to get an investor visa to basically be able to at least make my tax home in the US.
So can you even invest in if you invest in real estate, can you still get visa?
Yeah, they don't love that. So that's the tricky part. So it has to be an active strategy, and they don't consider owning property active. Like a property management company is active. Airbnb business could be active, but not necessarily just owning a few properties or what have you. So,
okay, got it. So you got to invest in specific company.
Right. And they don't like debt either. So they want, like, if real estate's your business, they want you like no debt. So you could be buying $1 million of real estate. They still want you putting in $1 million. Right. Whereas you could buy an ice cream, stand and for 75 grand and get approved and buy that all cash. Right. So there's, it's weird. It's a really weird process. So kind of in navigating that, I know we're getting a little tangent here. So navigating the requirements of that and then figuring out how to make that profitable and advantageous for me too. I certainly don't love building in cash. So basically my strategy is I'll build roughly one at a time in cash, and then may also build using debt as well on additional units, and that'll kind of keep the speed up. But building all cash on it, that's not very efficient.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. So what about you? Like, what do you see in Windsor for going forward? Like, I mean, for me, I think any investor that wants to keep going, they want to be able to use other people's money, and they want to be able to do perfect BRRRRs and just keep recycling it and growing and growing and growing. Is that strategy possible in your eyes in Windsor? Yeah. And do you have, like, what would you tell somebody new coming to you that said, hey, this is what I want to do? What would you tell them?
So again, definitely it's getting harder and harder to find the deals, right? But good thing is in Windsor still there are good cash flowing properties. There's still, like, you can find a duplex under 450. Still you can find a triplex under 500, 550, which is like, if you can cash for key, get the tenants out, invest like 15, 20,000 on the tenants, get them out now, increase the rent. So the BRRRR strategy is still doable, pretty doable in Windsor. For me, yes, I'm getting into that, raising money from other people. So right now, like, we are doing 3 flips on the go. me and my partner, started this to do more flips. We are aiming to do like at least 12 to 20 flips next year. So what we are doing is like, instead of using our money, we are giving opportunity for people who are like, happy of having that passive income, who love to just generate like 100% passive, right? So we are for all the three projects, like we offered 12% interest annual payments for passive investors. So they're like super happy so far. Like all the three clients who offered us, who private lended on those deals, they were like super happy. So we want to expand on that one, and of course continue helping investor to buy and sell properties here in Windsor. My team is like now crushing it. I have like 3 agents. They're also like now also investor focused, except one guy, he's a first time home buyer focused. So probably building that side as well.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like you've got a lot going on. What's your team look like? Is this all you? Like, I mean, in terms of your direct support, I don't mean your real estate team per se, but in your specific real estate flipping and property management operation, and then as well as your day to day, how does that look like for you? Or what does that look like?
I'm heavy on leveraging because I believe in like, if you try to be a jack of all, either you burn yourself pretty quickly. So at least I learned that pretty early in my career. So I have a operations manager who takes care of all the operations on the sales side. I have my wife, who is my listing coordinator, who takes care of all the paperwork. I have a ISA, who is sitting in Filipino doing all the calls for our clients, just make sure all the introduction calls and everything. And I have 3 agents who are like specialized in dealing with the buyers, in helping investors and the first-time home buyers. And on the investing side, my partner, flipping side, my partner is actually GC. He has a company of doing the renovations. So his role is to take care of all the renovations. And once the renovations are done, once we rent them out, we have a property management company. Not me and my company. I work with a local company that who've been taking care of my properties pretty well. So I work with them. So I try to leverage every piece as possible.
So what are you doing on a daily basis then?
I do a lot of YouTube videos.
I love it, man.
Yeah, that's something my favorite part. And of course, I do a lot. Still, I help clients. I take on investors. A couple of them. I mostly focus on listings, like where seller side, because now I just need to be involved in the negotiation process and all. So still that side, like sales side, I'm still very active because that's major chunk of my income. So, and it's still like the team side is still growing. So I got to be more available there.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. It sounds like you've got yourself a really good setup.
Thank you.
I like the sounds of it. And the consistent theme I see so much is everyone's delegating. Everyone, like that's the key to bigger growth, right?
And it's a hard part, right? That's a tough part. Of course, I'm still a lot of work in progress. It sounds like super nice, but it's a lot of work in progress. Training the new agents, training the new employee coming in. So it's all it's great once the systems can run by themselves. So probably I would say my goal is for next year to have the team by run itself, so I don't need to sell per se.
So you won't even be directly involved. Yeah, that's a goal. So that way now I can focus on just content and making sure getting into bigger projects like multifamilies, where now I can focus on raising the money and finding the deals. You got to free up your time. Yeah, it's all about freeing up your time. Anything else you'd want to share with our listeners and viewers?
So one thing for sure, especially if you're an immigrant, right? Like that's where I come from. If someone immigrants listening to this, if you think, afraid of situations that you're in or fear of unknown, here's the thing. I was scared to death when I purchased my first property. I was scared to death when I quit my job. Even now, like, when I got my 17-unit building, I was scared to death. Same thing. But if you're scared, it's okay. It's a part of the process, but take actions. if you know subconsciously, like subconsciously, you know this is the right thing to do. It's just the scare of unknown. Then you just do it anyways, because once you jump in, now you have no option to swim to the shore.
Yeah, it's true, right? Once you're in, what else are you going to do but be successful? Once you buy that thing, you got to do something with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's sink or swim. I've applied that to myself, and I find that it is very useful, although I can't recommend it because people can get themselves into some serious hot water. But yeah, I do agree that, sometimes a little fear is healthy, but you got to listen to it and understand it and then take action. So great,
of course,
great point.
Of course, you got to do your due diligence.
Yeah, do your due diligence, of course.
Yeah, without doing all those things, of course, you cannot jump in. But after doing everything, you can still sense yourself, the fear, right? Like when I got my 17-unit building, like honestly, that night I couldn't sleep because it was the risk I'm taking in. I didn't have money at that time for the deal. I was using my realtors, the tax money and the money I have to pay for next year. But I was doing all the math in my brain. You know what? If I continue in the same direction, I can refinance from here and here and here. There was risk. So you just need to now look at, okay, I can do this. If this goes wrong, I can do this. But still the fear is there, right? So that's where I would say jump in, because now you know exactly if something goes wrong, you can take another action. If something that goes wrong, you can take another one. But if you don't take that first step, you're not going anywhere.
No, you're absolutely right. Okay, I really appreciate you sharing that with us. And if people wanted to follow you, where should we send them?
Of course, they can reach out on Instagram and Facebook. Pretty active in there. It's my full name, Aditya Kumar Soma.
Okay. Thanks a lot for doing this, Aditya. And we'll look. I'm glad we finally met, and look forward to staying in touch.
For sure, definitely. Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to today's episode. Please make sure to share this episode far and wide. Help it help more people. I really appreciate you tuning in. Thanks. I'll see you on the next one.